Summer is fast approaching, and with it comes an inevitable question. How are you going to make sure all the people at that barbecue you're planning have a really good time? Well, I'll tell you, you get one of these out, and you insist on playing it. Oh, people will pretend they don't want you to, but just ignore that, because it'll definitely make you really popular. Thing is, though, they have heard you fumble through Wonderwall already, so you need a few new ideas. But I've got you covered with 4 techniques that'll help really improve your acoustic playing. Okay, so for the purposes of this, let's assume our song has the following chord progression. G, B minor, E minor, and C. Now, I should stress the techniques I'm going to discuss here can be applied to anything, but I've just chosen this as a bit of a generic example. Now, sometimes a stock, basic strumming pattern is exactly what's required, so we shouldn't turn our noses up at that, but this is for people who maybe want a few more options, a few different angles you can approach a chord progression from. So let's look at our first example. Okay, first of all then, we have a Paul McCartney-inspired idea using an interval called a tenth. Now, what's going to happen here is we are going to play the root note of each chord in turn. So the G, the B, the E, and the C. And we're going to play at the same time the tenth above it. That is to say, 10 notes higher than the root note in the relevant scale. Now, I know we didn't become musicians to do anything so mentally arduous as counting all the way to 10, but luckily, a tenth is the same thing as a third. It's just an octave higher. So, for example, if we start with our G major chord, if we count 3 notes up in the G major scale, we come to this note, B. Now, we can play the G and the B together like so, and it sounds perfectly sweet and harmonious, but it's a little bit close. And if you're playing solo acoustic, you're not going to fill a lot of space. So what we can do instead is play that B an octave higher, and we're filling a much broader range. So we're going to play the G and the B together, and then we come to our B minor chord. Now 3/10 notes above B in a B minor scale is D. So I'm going to play the B and the D here at the 3rd fret on the B string. And then E, 3/10 notes above E in an E minor scale is G. And then the 10th above C in the C major scale is E. So we have these shapes. And to that we can bulk it up with a little bit of a finger picking pattern. So what I'm going to do here is play the 2 notes simultaneously, the G and the B, and then I'm going to play the open G string. We are in the key of G major after all, so that G string can be applied anywhere, and it's going to do quite a lot of work for us in this part. And then we're going to play the open B again. If you're new to finger picking, try and make sure you're using the thumb on the 6th string, your index finger on the G string, and your swearing finger on the B string. So we go, and then I'm going to play the 3 notes in sequence again after that, like that. And continue that through the chord sequence. Another interval you're going to want to familiarise yourself with, particularly if you're catering to any Johnny Cash fans, is an interval of a fifth, i.e. 5 notes above the root in the scale. This enables us to create some quite nice bass lines within the chord progression as we alternate between the root note and the fifth. So for example, on the G, if we count 5 notes up a G major scale, we come to the note D. Now if we're playing our regular open position G major chord, we can alternate between the G note there, 3rd fret on the 6th string, and the open D string. So we're just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we come to a B minor chord, a fifth above B in the B minor and indeed major scale is F sharp. Most convenient place to play that when you're playing a B minor chord like so is the 2nd fret on the 6th string. So we're going to be alternating between 2nd fret on the 5th string and 6th string. We will add some chord detail in between in a moment, but so far we have then E minor. A fifth above E is B. So we're already holding down a B as part of our regular open position E minor chord, 2nd fret on the 5th string. So we can then go open 6th string, 2nd fret on the 5th. Then comes C. A fifth above C is G. So again, we can just move between the strings at the same fret. 3rd fret on the 5th string gives us the C note, and 3rd fret on the 6th string gives us our G. And then to bring us back to G, I might play a very simple little melody there going G, A, G. So we have a way to add a nice percussive detail to a part is by including something called a backbeat slap, which does sound like it has the potential to be delightfully rude, but it's not really. It's just by backbeat we mean beats 2 and 4 of the bar. And we're going to include a kind of a muted strum of the strings. Quite distinct from a rest, we're not going for a silence here, we're going for something quite pronounced. So for example, after we strum that G on beat 1, we're going to go as if we're going to strum the chord again, but kind of karate chop the strings there just as you hit them with your pick. And we're just going to essentially alternate between strumming the chord and a muted strum. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're new to this, that's where I'd start. Just try and keep the beat like so. But once you get into the swing of that, you can bulk out the strumming pattern a little bit more. And last example for you today is courtesy of a very undervalued device, in my opinion, the Capo, or Capo, if you absolutely insist. You'll notice I've been a bit silly. I put it up very high on the neck, relatively, at the 7th fret. And by doing this, we can really change the feel and sound of our regular chord shapes. However, if we're going to play exactly the same chords, we can't use the same chord shapes as we use down here because the Capo changes key. You know how if we take an E note and then move it up 1 fret, we turn it into an F note? The same is true of whole chords as well. If you take an E chord and move it up with a bar, it becomes F, and so on and so forth. So what I've done here is I've taken a C shape and simply moved it up a fret at a time until it becomes G. So it was C in the regular position, move it up here, it becomes C sharp, move it up again, it becomes D, and so on, until we end up with a bar or capo at the 7th fret and a C shape played after it. So our chord progression is still G, B minor, E minor, C, but for that to work here, we're going to need to play a C shape, then an E minor shape, then an A minor shape, and then an F shape. You'll notice I'm certainly not bothering with the full bar there. The capo gets in the way and we're too high up. I'm just doing this, what they used to call easy F. So it sounds a lot more sparkly and brighter. And the other nice thing about playing up here is because we're high up with the capo on, we've kind of lowered the action. The strings are a lot closer to the fretboard. And this facilitates a lot of extra kind of technique like hammer-ons and so on. They're a lot easier to perform up here. So we can kind of zhuzh up our chords with a bit of that as well. And there we go, a few ideas to hopefully keep the interest up around your next campfire. Really hope they sing along. If you've enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing. Really do appreciate it. And I'll see you with something else very soon. Cheers.